Welcome to this week's edition of Sunday Morning Coffee with Caryn. I am Caryn Terrace, your super conscious leadership mentor. Wow, I have not had enough coffee this morning. So today is going to be all about a post that I put up. So I was going to do this live stream last week, and then last week was Easter, and so we had a whole live stream all about the Christ as you and knowing yourself is the resurrection and ego deaths and all these crazy things. It was amazing. Go and watch last week's episode if you missed it. So this week's episode is all about a post that I did about steam, which is my preferred fuel when it comes to moving through this physical realm and moving towards ascension, becoming less weighed down by the things going on in the world and really manifesting your life, really knowing your worth, which, if again you caught last week's episode, is really knowing yourself as God in human form, which means that you choose every single thing that happens in your life. And you might have noticed this week I was talking a lot about how you have to go after what you want, even if it hurts other people. You have to realize that some people are just going to fall away because they just can't handle you. You're going to have people that are haters that just vilify you and are angry and go on witch hunts. All of these things. Hi, thank you. And we have to remember, like I've been jamming out to Smash Mouth all morning actually, and I was listening to All Stars. And what is that line in All Stars? Only shooting stars break the mold. Where shooting stars are freaking hot, right? They are big giant, well, they're actually balls of ice like flying through the air, right? Meteorites or rock. They get burned up in the atmosphere, right? So right, there's no hi, thank you. So when you have a fiery passion, like I clearly do, and everyone that works with me does, or if you are in my sphere, is either because you have it or you want it. And that's what I teach you, to really fully and completely know your worth, which again, I'm going to continue to reiterate. Worthiness is not how much money you can charge for your services. Worthiness is not whether or not your marriage is working. Worthiness is not how your kids act with you. Worthiness is not how your job is going or your relationships with anyone else. Worthiness is something that you have to know from within yourself. And that's knowing who you are in love, knowing what you are in love, and knowing how you serve in love. Really, that comes down to knowing yourself as God manifested in human form, and knowing how to sing your own song, or to be a singing crystal, as you guys have heard me talk about, or to really just radiate the frequency. Like if you took your fingerprint, this is something I do with my kids. You can like take a ink pad and like make a little fingerprint and look at your own swirling fingerprint and meditate on it. And you will start hearing like a little tune going on, like a little frequency going on in your head, because your fingerprint is the same frequency as your voice. If you that's the reason why they can why people muffle their voice, right? Because your voice is so recognizable. And there is no person on the planet with the same voice signature as you. There's a reason why we have handwriting. Everything about us is so unique, and yet we try so hard to fit into this mold. Well, if you're a shooting star, only shooting stars break the mold. Well, you got a lot of heat and a lot of fire going on with that. And a lot of the times that means that you are burning bridges. It means that you are expanding super fast and then collapsing back down, what I call the supernova effect. What we are trying to do is we're trying to build you up to sun level and then be able to sustain that, right? The sun is going to eventually get bigger and bigger and bigger and supernova out. Our sun, soul, up in the sky. But people tend to try to do that. That's the reason why rock stars end up being addicted to all those sex, drugs, and rock and roll. There's a reason why you have, young movie stars who end up having so many problems. Athletes who end up hurting themselves like the first game or two of a season after being rookies or having a really great year the year before. I have a client who is a stunt double, and every time his career started going for a few years, he would actually injure himself. And it took him realizing that he was actually sabotaging himself. So a lot of that, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will rule your life, and you will call it fate, as I love to quote Carl Jung. But he realized that's what he was doing. Every time his career started getting better and better and better, he would actually end up getting hurt. And I would have to help him rehab as a massage therapist for a few months. And then he'd get back going on a job, and he'd have to kind of start back slowly. And then he'd get a really big gig. And like a week before the gig, he'd injure himself again. Right? And that's why I absolutely love working with the body and the mind together, is because we can uncover so much more. But I digress. You'll understand me soon. Wait for my picture. Okay. Yes. So water. So when you have that fire, again, you tend to burn bridges. You're the type of person that, like, when you're done with a relationship, you're like, and here's dynamite, and you blow the fucking bridge up. Like, you ain't never looking back. Again, when you have these great ideas, it's like you get the spark of the idea and it immediately turns into a wildfire, and you go with it, and then you realize that you're actually burnt out already on it. So a lot of my clients come to me because they're really in the middle of an amazing project, but they're afraid of the burnout. Essentially, they're like, I don't want this to be what happened the last time and the last 17 times before that. So what you have to do is add water. Okay, you have to add that flow. You have to add that softness. Fire is that very masculine, activating energy. So even in a woman, you can tell those women who are more masculine than feminine, right? I would be someone who is considered that. The fact that I show up every week and I'm like dressed this way and I have my makeup and everything done, that actually shows you how I've softened. If you were to go back a couple of years ago, I literally just didn't give a shit. I showed up with no makeup, no bra, no nothing. And that was because I was on that part of my journey where I really had to own all of who I was before I could really start to choose who I wanted to be. And that's such an important piece when you're on any journey, or when you start realizing that you want more in your life. You have to truly and completely love and accept who you currently are, so that when you become who you want to be, it's not because you hate pieces of who you are, because you just had to get out. It's that you knew how much you wanted, you knew your worth, you knew yourself as God so strongly that you desired to create something new. And creating that something new, that's where you need that steam and where you need that momentum. But again, you can see it. It's very, very common. I'm going to use the most common thing that I can think of in the coaching industry, because I know that a lot of you guys will relate to it. It's super common for women who had been in relationships for however many years, 5, 7, 10, 20, 30 years, who have babies, who have this whole family life, to start their personal development journey, to find out who they really are, to find out how they really want to serve in the world, to find out that they're more than just a wife and a sister and a mom, to really find, to heal those deep-rooted childhood traumas. They go through the whole process. And a lot of them end up, they start their own coaching business. They start helping other people. They start their own way of serving in the world, and they become financially independent. And then these women all of a sudden have this identity crisis occur, where they're like, I am no longer, I was no longer codependent. I started out codependent as fuck as with my husband, just so fucking codependent. Okay, these women do. And then they go through their journey, and they're doing all these things, and they're softening, and they're opening, and they're expanding, and they're doing all of these things, and they're healing. And so they no longer are codependent on their husband, but they're still dependent, right? They're still financially dependent. So there's no longer that toxicity, but financially she just can't, she wouldn't be able to leave, right? And that's a very, very, very common thing in our society, because it's how it's just common. It's starting to be less common, but it's still very common. And then all of a sudden, these women, they start making $5,000 a month and $10,000 a month. And next thing they know, they're able to actually bring their husband home from work. and he doesn't have to go to work anymore, and she feels so good because that's all she ever wanted. But if you're like me and you've had your husband home from work for the last 30 days, 30 days into this, a lot of women who bring their husbands home from work are like, fuck, what in the fuck did I do? That was a really bad choice. I don't like him. I like him better when I don't see him for 60 hours a week. And they start to go through this ego death. So again, last week's video was all about ego death. So why am I telling you this? Because a woman tends to learn about her fire when she's going through her process, right? She learns her strength. She learns her power. She started out as this very timid and shy woman and was slowly able to heal the childhood wounds, heal the traumas, heal the things that happened in her life, start creating something new, have better relationships with her parents and with her kids and with her friends. And it feels like with her husband too, until the financial stability kicks in. And then a whole lot of time the financial stability kicks in and she's all like, I actually realize that I want a way more epic love affair. I want this legendary love. So that fire and that passion and that heat, all of a sudden, she's got it everywhere else. She's got the stability in her money that she's creating. She's got all these other things that her marriage had been fulfilling for her. It is super, super common for these women to literally just blow up their relationships. They don't take any time. They don't think about how the man that they were with felt about it. They just literally go and they file for a divorce and they're fucking done. And they don't add any flow. They don't add steam. They light the bitch up and let it burn. Literally, like, burn, motherfucker, burn. Because they're just so angry. Because they never really thought about all of the things that were pissing them off before because they had all these other things to distract them, right? It's the reason why it's happening right now. Like, you can go look, divorce rates are literally through the freaking roof right now because of everybody being home with each other all the time. So to have flow, to be able to have that steam, to have that softness and that seduction sort of thing, you need to be able to add that little bit of water, right? You need to take that fire, that burningness in your belly to have financial independence, to have all those things that you want in your life and to not burn out, right? So what is going to happen? You're either going to burn out and you're not going to be able to actually reach the goal that you want. You're going to burn down all of the relationships that you had. So this woman, all of a sudden, she has a shitty divorce. The kids hate her. All these things. Like, you could actually make it a very amicable thing if that happened. But it tends to not be because there's all this fire. There's all this rage and all of this stuff going on that unless you know how to soften it with the flow and with the water, which I'm going to talk about here in a second, I just really want to paint this picture for you because I know that honestly, it's the easiest thing for me to come up with because I work in the coaching industry and it's really it's an extremely common thing for this to happen. And maybe it doesn't always go to like full on divorce, but like trial separations, I have plenty of clients that end up needing to have a trial separation just to like realize, no, actually I'm fine. But it's because they've never had a chance to be independent before. So all of a sudden, all these what ifs happen. Like, oh, well, did I settle? Oh, did I do this? Oh, did I do that? And if you're a fiery person, you could end up ruining the things in your life that are actually really good just because you're like, no, I'm a shooting star. Oh, no, I'm a beacon of light. Oh, no, I'm going to change the world. Oh, I'm doing all these things. And you can supernova, right? You just get too big and too bright. And then what ends up happening? You collapse back into each other. So wildfires, they burn and they burn and they burn and they're destructive as fuck. But then eventually what happens? The rain falls down and water is more powerful than fire and it will turn it off. And then there's just nothing but a barren, ashy field until new trees can grow. When you realize that water is more powerful than fire, you start to find the balance between the flow and the ease. And then like, no, sometimes I just need to add some fire. Like, I got to get this done. I got to move from here to there. Or how to take that fire if I want to go to here from here to there and add that softening, that water, so that you can create this constant, like, I always just think about trains, like locomotive trains, right? And yet, when they were going up a hill, they were sitting in there like throwing more coal into the fires to make it up the hill. But then they would get to the top and they'd actually have to let some of the steam out to slow themselves down and to brake, right? This is where this whole analogy came from, was me thinking about trains one day. And also how I've been able to soften. And how I softened was getting into my feminine, getting into my more watery pieces. And I did that through some pretty steamy ways, by taking S-Factor classes, by doing naked mirror mantras, by learning how to really connect to my voice and taking singing lessons, to consciously deciding how I'm going to look every day, not because of what other people want from me, but because I really enjoy having my looking this way. I love it. I feel amazing. I feel strong. I feel confident. And it's not that I don't feel that way when I don't have my makeup on. It's just that when I have my makeup on, it's just like, it's that song, like, I do my hair toss, check my nails. Baby, what you doing? Right? It's just like you feel this next level confidence when you get ready for your day. And every freaking woman knows that, right? We know that. It's just, are you putting on a face because you can't stand looking at yourself in the mirror? That's the difference. Again, I went through years of doing that. Like, I couldn't look in the mirror, had other people do my makeup for me when I would have dates. The rest of the time, I just didn't look in mirrors and just didn't put on makeup, didn't care, was super frumpy. And I also had a ton of self-esteem issues, and I had a ton of other issues going on. So how do you add that water? How do you create the steam? Well, you guys know how much I love acronyms. So write on a piece of paper, STEAM, steam. The first letter, S, is for silence, okay? It's the act for me. The act of putting on your makeup that you enjoy. Yeah, and again, but Amy, you're one of those people that can look at yourself in the mirror with no makeup on and be totally okay with yourself. That's what I'm trying to create the distinction, right? Like, you don't need makeup on to make yourself feel lit up. You just like it. Again, the act of putting on the makeup and having it just gives you that little extra oomph that without makeup you still have plenty of oomph, right? So that's the distinction I really want to make clear. If you're someone that's like I know women who literally wake up in the morning before their husbands, get ready in the morning, and then at night wait until their husbands are in bed and then wash their faces. So their husbands literally never see them without their makeup on. And if they do, it's like, oh, sorry, honey, out of the shower. They get out of the shower and immediately put their makeup back on. That is the stuff, no. No. If that's how you are, then we need to have a conversation. So, silence, steam, STEAM. The first S is silence, okay? Silence as in, meditation, introspection. You guys hear me talk all the time, and I will continue until the day I die, about existential kink. It's an amazingly strong, powerful practice that helps you take those daily things that you just don't like random bills or your kids yelling at each other or procrastination, just those daily habits. You don't do it on the big thing. That woman would not do that on her marriage ending. Okay, she wouldn't use existential kink on her marriage ending. She would use it on, why can't, I'm tired of not having consistent clients. Before she became totally independent, or when she was ready to go to her next level up, she would use it on that. I'm ready to feel this deep kinky pleasure that I get when I have a bomb ass 50K month and then the next 3 months are shit. That's what she would use existential kink on. She wouldn't use it on her divorce. No. But that's a solve practice. So solve et coagula, solve meaning to dissolve and coagula meaning to form again. The silence helps you to discern what needs to be dissolved. Because you might think that you have massive money issues. And this is what I love about metaphysics and what I love about being a body worker and what I love about being connected so much to the quantum realm. Energy is energy is energy. So what fills your your money blocks might actually be related to your relationship blocks. Or like, so the fact that your kids don't listen to you, or the fact that you thought that you were like, I'll use myself for example. I thought that I was a neglectful mom when I was younger, which that's neither here nor there whether or not I was, but I definitely could have shown up more. I was a baby when I had a baby. Let's just put it that way. I was barely 20 years old when I had my kid, and he was a total surprise. And so because of that, it wasn't until I was able to heal my issues with my worthiness around being a mom, my value of being a mom, once I was able to really get solid on who I am as a mom and how I serve as a mom and what my role is as a mom, all of a sudden my money block started like dissipating, and I wasn't having as much issues there. And then, you know, they might come up again, and I realized there was a correlation between my kids and my money, and I started to realize that every time I started yelling again and kind of falling back into those old patterns of parenting, that my client rate would drop and my enrollment rate would drop and my clients wouldn't be able to make their payments, and like all these things would happen. So I know that I personally have a correlation between my parenting and my business, like making money in my business. But it took me a couple of, you know, like probably over a year of just trying to focus on my business, before I realized, hey, when I'm in a good jive with my kids, I'm actually in a really good jive with my business. And when I'm not in a good jive with my kids, I'm actually in a shitty place with my business. So you have to find out your own correlations. Again, frequency, fingerprints, like I am unique. Might be your sex life. Maybe you know that when your sex life is doing really great, your business is doing really great. Or maybe you don't have a business, and it's just that you know that if you're having a lot of sex, then also your house is probably getting clean and you're just happier in general. I mean, sex is just great. And then you notice that when the house isn't clean and all these other things, that you're not having as much sex. So you can find your own correlation of where your energy is flowing to and from, so that when there's a block over here, you start recognizing and learning, oh, okay, so this is where the block is, but that means I actually need to look at this part of my life. Okay, does that make sense? Is that resonating? So that's that silence. That's that, like, okay, let me get quiet for a minute. Let me just get into my engine. So the meditation, journaling, automatic writing, just all going out on nature walks, anything where you're going to get silent. And the best way to get silent is actually to get out of your head and into your body. So this is where, again, going on a walk is getting you moving. Or turning on some music that maybe doesn't have a lot of words, but allows you to just like, you know, like unwind your neck and start to move the way that just feels really good and pleasurable to you. Like this. Like circles are really good for women. We love the circular motion. Like even just like turning your wrists and like moving your chest around and letting your hips like start to open. You start to drop out of your head and you start feeling into your body. And then you can ask questions like, do I really need to do marketing today? And maybe you feel like, wait, I just got like stuck thinking about marketing, and you can feel in your body where all of your marketing actually lives in your body. Or you start thinking about your marriage because you're stuck in the house with your husband for 40 freaking straight days at this point. And you start feeling like this kink in your side that you've never really noticed was there. But as you start saying things like, I'm actually creating this, right? Because again, you are God in manifestation. Having is evidence of wanting. So if you have things that you don't want in your life, it's actually because your unconscious wants them. So you need to start connecting to those unconscious parts of you. But your unconscious parts of you live more deeply in your body than they do like really in your head. This is like your ego's land, and then your like unconscious lives all in your body. So again, as someone who receives body work every other week, and it's very deep work as well as Reiki and all these other things, I've been able to learn where in my body different parts of my unconscious live. Like I keep a lot of my worry, and everyone does, but like worry specifically about my family gets stuck right underneath my left ribs, like right in here. And then when I have worries actually about my parents, it's closer down here to like my right ovary. And then when I have like client stuff, like I'm like not breaking through with clients, it's actually in my back. So I know in my own body where I hold my different patterns, and that's why I love teaching clients, even across the world, how to do the same things. But it takes silence. It also takes, so STEAMT, trust. Holy Jesus, guys, trust is the biggest, hardest thing, especially if you had a lot of trust issues in the past. I have no idea. Sorry, someone just messaged me. So it took me jumping out of an airplane to have full trust in myself. Literally last year, I'd been wanting to, but I kept making excuses, and I finally decided for my birthday last year that I was going to go skydiving. And I went skydiving. I had this amazing person, like the instructor that I had was like, I would not have mind. If he was the person that was going to be on my back when I died, I was not very upset about it. He was a very attractive looking guy, especially out of the other guys I could have been jumping with. So you know that I manifested that. And he was just really sweet, really nice guy. And like the whole time, it's like, I'm choosing to do this. Like, I'm paying my money. I'm putting on these things myself. I'm letting him like do all of this. He's on my back, but I'm still making these choices. I'm climbing into the airplane, and they're like, you can be all the way up there and say you don't want to. But if I'm going to be all the way up there already, fuck that. I'm going to go. And if you watch the video, you see me. I'm literally like, don't even look at the ground. I'm just like, my head's back, leaning into him, like my eyes closed, just like, here we go. And he tells you, and you go 1, 2, and he just jumps, and like I scream bloody murder. We free fall for 50 seconds, and then that parachute catches us, and I just float, and I just think about all the little people in their houses, and all of the like pettiness, and all of the smallness, and like how much I love to soar, and how high I like to be. But it was a very soft, like the fire part was falling, where I was just screaming like ego death all the way down. And then the steam, the water was getting caught, right? You like letting go of the parachute and being able to slowly drift down. That takes trust. And I might have had to do I literally had to go skydiving to be able to get that sort of feeling in my body. But now that I have that feeling in my body, when other things are happening in my life where I'm just like, I have no idea what I'm going to do. I don't know how this is supposed to serve me. I don't understand how this is going to be helpful. This is going to be really hurtful to people that I care about. This is going to completely throw off all of my clients that I've been working with. This is going to change the entire trajectory of my life, because I've been silent and I've been still, and all of a sudden like a subconscious thought comes off that just like, oh fuck, that's the reason why I haven't been able to succeed in that area of my life. Oh shit. And that's what when you start having these ego deaths and you start being more open to them, you actually notice how much bigger they get. It doesn't get easier. I promise you that. The bigger you are as a shooting star, the harder these ego deaths can be to handle, because it's things that you thought would never change in your life, and you're just like, oh my god, I can't believe that that's what I'm going to have to do. And you have to have trust. So I've now have an imprint in my body of what it feels like to trust, and so I'll just close my eyes and I go back to that moment when I went skydiving, right? Once again, these are things that I've had to learn over a few years of building that own trust within myself, within building that own relationship with me of, oh, okay, I didn't listen to myself when this came up, and look at how it kind of bit me in the ass. Okay, this time the same, very similar situation is coming up. I'm going to try something different. And trust me, it's more like 1, 2, like, didn't listen, still didn't listen, still didn't fucking listen, was gonna do the other thing, but at the very last minute changed my mind and didn't listen, and then finally listen, and all of a sudden the next level gets through. So when you start to develop that trust by allowing the flow, this is where, like, again, having your daily practice in the morning, having that time for yourself every morning for you to drop into your body, to go on your walks, to do your meditations, to do your journaling, to do your body movement and your yoga, whatever it is that gets you out of your damn head and into your body is going to be the thing that drops that watery feeling into you. Strangely enough, the more you actually allow for the softening and you're not just like, what do I need to do next? This isn't working. I tried this for 48 hours and it's not working now. Holy shit, this new bill came in. And you're just always like, first of all, that's going to create so much heat. You're actually probably going to start like rashing out or breaking out or getting sick. You're going to start having those ascension symptoms. So like I told you guys in one of the posts when I was describing what we were going to be talking about, ascension symptoms are not fucking normal. I don't care who you are or like what your belief system is. It is total and complete dis-ease in your body for you to have physical symptoms when you are expanding. If you are getting colds, or if you are breaking out in rashes, if you are having horrendous diarrhea or intestinal issues, if you're burping up sulfur, if you get super bad migraines, you know what it is. Like, I know I'm up leveling because this physical thing is happening. There is such extreme dis-ease in your body compared to what your spirit and your mind and your emotion wants, that it has gotten down to that dense level of your physical body. And that is just not, that means that it's like burning you up. It's like burning that bridge. It's taking that much physical energy to release you. And I'm not saying that it's not normal. Okay. It's normal for you to do this until you realize that you have a choice. Okay. I used to do this. Okay. I used to always, every time I would start up leveling, ascending, like going through a new motion, I would know because I would get horrible sulfur burps. And the next day I would have horrendous intestinal issues. I'd have to go on the brat diet for like 48 hours. And it sucked. And I realized all about the large intestine being about absorbing and assimilating information and then releasing what is not necessary. But it sucks as a mom running around all over the place if for 2 days straight you literally can't be any further than like a 2-second jog to a bathroom. And because I was around all these people that were like, oh, it's just Ascension Symptoms. Oh, this is such a good thing. And made it an awesome thing for my body to be revolting against me. I just okay, I guess that's how it is. Until I realized that no, I actually decide how my process is going to be, and having that happen fucking sucks and I don't want it to be that way. So what did that take? Silence and trust. I can actually have those, I now might get a little bit of sulfur burps. That's it, a little bit. And sulfur is actually the card of the emperor or the associated with the emperor and some other things like that. So burping sulfur for me, as far as I'm concerned, is way better. If I deal with that for 2 hours at the end of the night and then go to sleep and by the morning I'm all back good, I would rather that than any of the other things. And it's still a little bit of I'm releasing some dense things, but it doesn't need to be full body rashes or massive headaches for 4 days or puking your guts out. I had a client once pay me in full, and I was apparently the first person that she had paid that much money to work with, and she apparently puked for 2 hours afterwards. And I was like, okay, well, that will be the first thing we work on because you shouldn't need to throw up. But once you trust your process, you get silent and you trust and you start moving through your process of now that I'm allowing for this ego death to occur, now that I'm allowing for this fire, I had this drive, I had this idea, I'm moving forward, but I've gotten quiet, I've gotten really clear on what I'm doing, I'm trusting what's going on with my body, you will start to notice your energy pick up because of it. Because the first 2 steps were silent and trust, extremely, extremely feminine, soft processes, your energy will start to increase. And it's not just that it's increasing, it's like tunnel vision, right? So again, the train on the track situation. Because you've essentially your power, your fiery power is still blowing things out of the way on the tracks. Any sort of hurdles or logs on the road or anything like that, your fire is still like just burning those up. But instead of burning that block up, and also all of the forest around you, that you're able to actually focus it because you're silent in your trust. Okay, you're just like, you are one thought process, and things start coming up, and you're either able to like blow it away or move it forward or whatever it is. Hey, Patrice, we've gone skydiving too, Chase. It's so fun. The mind is at dis-ease, therefore the body is diseased. Yep, that's exactly what it is. The mind is in dis-ease. And it's not just the mind, right? The mind and the emotions. And maybe if you think about like the mind. But really, yeah, exactly. The mental, emotional, and spiritual energy bodies will be able to be released if you can fix those areas. If you can heal your mind, body, or mind, spirit, and emotions, your body will actually heal itself. So as someone who cured herself of fibromyalgia by going through therapy, I can tell you that to be true, especially because fibromyalgia is actually physicalization of PTSD. So if you have suffered from PTSD, or have so many like things that went on in your childhood that you never got to talk about because your family just swept it under the rug, you can actually start to physicalize that in your body, and your body will start revolting against you. So body work for me was such an important part, because I was finding stories hidden in my body that as I was able to just speak them and get massaged, I was able to move through it. And so again, so that gave me more energy and more vitality. And once my body wasn't hurting anymore, then I could focus even more on my mind. So it wasn't just like living a normal life, but how do I live my best life? How do I live my biggest life? How do I live my brightest life? And who do I need to keep in my sphere? I literally have like, there's my husband who's still around, there's my kids who are obviously still around, and I have a friend that like just came back into my sphere, and that's because she just got over her shit enough to kind of catch up in many ways. And one, maybe two other people who have known me since that time in my life when I started curing myself of fibromyalgia that are still friends with me now. Because all of the rest of them, I've burned past. And it's not even that I burned down those relationships. Actually, a lot of them, they just stopped messaging. I like disappeared essentially because I was just vibrating so fast that I'm just at a higher frequency than them. And that's not good or bad. Like I said, someone just recently came back up. Like I hadn't talked to her in almost a year, and now her life is fucking sweet, and we're hanging out, well, coffee chatting via Zoom and all those things. And like her energy's up. So the energy starts moving and flowing because now you've got enough water that you're not burning into this giant fire. It's like more of a controlled burn, right? You know how they do control burns when they're clearing land, which again is often why forest fires go out of control. But if you can keep it a controlled burn by having water, so like soaking the rest of the forest down beforehand, and then only this one path is dry enough to get burned up. That's what we're going for. We're going for that control burn, that slow release, that continuous momentum forward, so that energy just keeps building. The more you're silent and the more you trust, the more you're actually going to move forward. So much more than like, okay, tomorrow I have to do this, and then I have to do this, and then I did that, and then I have to do, and this didn't work, and then like the level of anxiety and stress that I get for most of my clients, I'm like, and I'll send them a dragon invocation, and I'm all like, hey, did you listen to this yet? Oh, you haven't? Talk to me once you do this. And then most of the time they don't even message me, because just listening to the dragon invocation, like, oh, okay, see what I can do. But even then afterwards, they're able to come to me more focused, because when you receive a dragon invocation, it's really just your own soul frequency being toned through my voice. So whatever you need in that moment, the same recording is going to help you. Or I'll send new ones. Some of my clients' boxers are literally just filled with like 2 minutes, like whatever I think they need, or their soul tells me they need. Okay, so once you have the energy going, and I've kind of already been talking about it, so silence, trust, energy, action. Okay. So I've already kind of been taught, you take the actions as they come, because you're coming back and being silent, like, okay, no, I need to do something. I have a focused mind. Because you're coming back and you're being focused, you're able to say, what is it that I really want? Okay, and because I'm being silent and I'm focused, I know that what I really want is to create $1 million empire? What do I need to trust within myself to be able to do that? And that could be things that you don't want to do. Again, going back to the analogy at the very beginning of all this, just to keep it cohesive, most of those women don't want to get divorces. But at a certain point, especially women, when a woman leaves a man, it's because she's already made up. Like, she's gone through every other fucking scenario that she could think of, and it's just not happening. Versus when men leave women, like, more than 75% of the time they'll come back because they didn't actually think it through. If a woman walks out, like, it is super rare that they come back, and the man must have done a lot to change for her to. This is just psychology from reading, like, tons of marriage books, because I have clients who are married and I needed to make sure that I leave my shit. And I love neuroscience and I love psychology. Like, the best marriage book I can tell you, it's called How to Fix Your Marriage Without Talking About It. It is mind-blowing. It talks about the brains of men and women. It talks about what each sex needs in a relationship. And this can be for homosexual relationships, because even though you're the same males, females, whatever, 2 males, 2 females, usually, even if you might swap roles a little bit more, there's going to be someone who has more of those masculine traits and someone who has more of those feminine traits. They actually talk about that in the same book, which is what I love. They, like, have a whole explanation of why that happens, and why that book is actually great if you are in any sort of relationship, specifically for monogamous relationships, right? Marriage specifically. Because you usually don't get married unless you're going to be monogamous, unless you're polygamous, which I do live in Utah, so anyway. Get the invocation. It's absolutely brilliant. Yes! I love it. I'm so happy. Yeah, Chase just got an invocation on Friday. Patrice has gotten them. Kelly, all these people, I love that. So you have this new action to take. So you've got, because you have your daily practice of getting silent and trusting what you need to do, and you have the energy to do it, you eventually reach the point where you know that that's the action you need to take, whatever it is. Maybe it's just opening the business. Maybe you've been doing side jobs for a long time. You've just been kind of getting paid, and now you really need to go open and get a business license, and you really need to go get a business bank account, because what you want to do, again, is to create $1 million empire, but you can't create $1 million without the IRS noticing. I'm sorry, you just can't. So you have to really think about, what is it you want, and are you creating the structure for it to come in? Do you actually have a way to create $1 million? Or my favorite is when people are like, oh, maybe I'll just win the lottery. And I say, well, have you bought a lottery ticket? And they're like, oh, no. So you have to take the action to get the result, and you have to have the right container. So if you like only making a $400, $500 here and there off side jobs, then that's fine. But you can't say that you want that and also say you want $1 million business. If you want $1 million business, then you need to go open bank accounts and get your LLC and do all of the other things, and really have a legitimate business and be paying yourself and putting money away for taxes and putting in for expenses. Like, actually treat your business like a motherfucking business. Your business is your business. It's not a fucking hobby. And that has to be the thing that I repeat the most to my clients when they're upset about things that are going on. Like, well, did you do this? Did you do this? Did you do this? Oh no, you did it. You burned out and you got tired and you went to sleep and all this other shit went on. Do the homework that I gave you, and then we can talk about it. I don't got time for that. I have 3 kids. I make them do their homework. Why do my clients think that they don't have to do theirs? I don't know. But that's why they hire me, because I'm seriously just so, you're not doing it. Okay, so once you have that, once you've been silent, okay, remember, you are a burning, raging fire. You have these big, amazing shooting star goals, but every time you try to reach those goals, you burn out, or you burn up all of the rest of the relationships, or you burn your whole fucking life down, or you collapse. So all of the things that were going for you just like suck back up. You supernova. You get too big, too fast, and you collapse again. You get these ascension symptoms where your body is revolting against you because there's just so much high octane energy running through you, and you don't know how to process it because you're so in your head and not in your body that it's not moving through. So you get silent. Figure out, what is it that I really deeply need? Like, I know what I want, but what do I fucking need right now in my life? And once you get the answer, you trust. You trust so fucking hard that no matter what it is, you know that it's for your highest good. And it could be the scariest thing you ever did, like jumping out of an airplane or filing for your $1 million business or finally leaving your wife or whatever it is that you need to do for those dreams to come true. And you have the energy to be able to take the action. And once you do that, it manifests. So M is manifestation. Those are the things that you need to really manifest your dreams. Silence, trust, energy, and action. But you can't get that. You can't manifest things with just fire. Fire burns. Fire destroys. And the thing that is most powerful against fire, that totally ends fire, is water. And the thing is that most people who come to me, I wouldn't even say most, all of the people that I have ever worked with, what they have is either too much water in their life, so they just feel like they're drowning and they're constantly sad and they're just living in this depressed, swampy state and they can't get themselves out. Or they've got too much fire and they keep burning out, and just blowing shit up in their lives, and they don't trust themselves to take any action. So I help them to find that balance. Those people that are too watery, I give them the resources to access that deep, fiery passion. What brings you joy? What brings you pleasure? What's turning you on? Steam, guys. I'm a very sexual being. So when I say steam and getting in your body, I'm talking about steam. Like that sexual drive that just gets everything going. If you are not turned on by what you're doing, then you need to stop and change what you're doing. Like slicing an onion, putting on your shoes, cleaning up dog shit, helping your kids with their homework, cleaning the house. When you can be blissful and joyful doing all of the actions in your life, whether they're good or bad, or you like to or you don't, you have found that state of flow, that state of steam that's going to just propel you forward. And you are going to notice more and more in your life how you're like going up this mountain, you're on this railroad track, and you're like, I'm gonna get to the top of this mountain. And you think like, it's like the beginning of the month, and you're like, okay, the top of the mountain's here, that's gonna take like probably like 2 months for you to reach that. But if you get into that state of flow and that steam, and you're just always in that turned on state, you're like there in like 2 weeks, and you're like, the fuck? How did I get there? And that's where quantum flight comes in. You're not just like leaping, like some people will skip the track, right? And maybe it takes them a month instead of 2 months. My clients see results in weeks instead of months. They see it in days instead of weeks. Clients will have a 1-hour phone call with me, and a day later they're like, holy shit, my whole life just changed in so many great ways. And it's because we add that sexual alchemy. We add that transmutation of what do we have and what is it that we want and how do we need to change. We are the catalyst for our own life. So if you have too much water, how can you add fire? If you have too much fire, how can you add water? Without them canceling each other out, because again, that's what ends up a lot of the time happening. You're too watery, and then we add some fire and you whoosh, and then we have to, like, it takes a little bit of time. It's not like it's overnight, but eventually it is overnight. Eventually 5-6 months down the road, you're just like, I don't even know how I'm living the life that I'm living. If you would have told me a year ago that I was going to be teaching industry leaders and future politicians how to be 100% courageously themselves all the time, I would have laughed in your face, because I was teaching pleasurable parenting and sexual motherhood and only focusing on parents and kids and trying to get that relationship to be more symbiotic. If you would have told me that I was going to be almost, would have been crushing my goals to be able to reach a millionaire mompreneur status this year, I would have laughed in your face last year, especially this time, because this time, that's not true. It's been like 1 year. 1 year ago today, I got my first $12,000 sale. Woo, woo. But it had been years of me getting no sales, like hardly any. $100 here, $300 package there, a little bit something. Last year I had an almost 6-figure year, and this year I'm already on my way to 7. But that's because I don't stop. I get my ass kicked, and the next day I'm back up. I have a massive breakthrough that brings me to my fucking knees, sobbing. How is this possible? How is this my life? What the fuck am I gonna do? This is so insane. I could never do this. And the next day being like, yes, I fucking can. I can do this because I'm worthy of it. This is what I want. This is how I'm going to get it. I am going to make a plan, and I know that I'm going to hurt people. And I know it's going to suck for a lot of people. But I have to put me first. Not because I'm narcissistic. Not because I'm a sociopath. But because I am a full manifestation of God in physical form. And because I know that, how am I going to continue to play small? How on my earth am I supposed to stay where I'm at now, knowing the things I know? What got me here is never going to get me there. What got me here to millionaire mompreneur status is never going to get me into the fucking White House. What is getting me into the White House? Why do I want to be in the White House? And I start listing all the reasons why I want to be in the White House. I want to change education reform. I want to change Congress. I want to change this. I want there to be a global community. I want to connect to the intergalactic. And I start listing. And that's what gets that energy, gets that fire burning again. On those days where I get cracked open and I start to grieve the ego death that I'm in the middle of. So I'd say the other physical thing that I do besides the sulfur burps would be crying. I do a lot of crying, and I do a lot of laughing, and honestly a lot of yawning, and a lot of movement. So, so I will sit there again in the middle of my meditation, and I don't meditate like Buddha. I'm not like, oh, totally still. I'm actually like yawning, laughing, crying, cursing, and all these things because I'm trying to allow for my body to just release things that don't need to go through my conscious mind. It's not necessary. When you're sitting there shoveling coal into an engine, they're not thinking about that process. They're just doing it, right? And that's the same thing when you're releasing old patterns and old karma. You don't need to really so much think about the old patterns and how to break them. You need to think about the new patterns and how to create those. Okay? Cool. Looks like we're good on the comments and questions. Yes, whole life has been different since Friday, like 2 days ago. Chase is already kicking ass. Sweet. Okay, so that's it. That's what I have for you. So again, steam, silence, trust, energy, action, manifestation. If you have any questions on how to put this into your own life, if you feel that you really require some one-on-one attention in achieving those dreams, if you have goals to be industry leaders, if you have goals to be community leaders, if you have goals to be in elected office, please reach out. I am taking clients right now in the middle of all this crazy because I want so deeply for us to have already established the authority when the world is open again to just step up and step into those leadership positions and really create this new earth that we are all beautifully creating in our causal plane, in the mental plane, as we're meditating and doing all these other things in our lives, clearing house, cleaning up. I love it so much. The neighborhood looks nicer, the yards are getting all put together, the kids look happier, all the animals are getting loved on, the air is so clean and beautiful. It's just such a beautiful experience for us to be finally remembering what it's like to live, to really like be alive, and to be like high on life and no longer having to worry about getting through the day. It's a beautiful way to have a rebirth. It's a beautiful way to take out the trash, to clean up what's going on in your life, to get silent, to go deep inside of you and find out, okay, I've been trying for how many years to do this thing, whatever it is. Open your business, landscaping, whatever, like honestly anything. And then you get that sight, like, what is it? Like, I want to do this, but there's no drive. There's no burning desire to do it. What's going on? You get silent and you start seeing all the little things that, like, you would have to let go of. You would have to kill these different parts of your ego to be the person who has that thing. So it's not like, once I have this, I'm going to be this person. It's who do you need to be to have it? And then you use that steam idea to then move you in the momentum forward to get it. But when you get it, when you arrive there, you have to be the person who has that then. You're not going to be that person once you have it. To get it, you need to be that person. So, yeah. Yeah, exactly. So, that's all I have for you today. I love you all. I'm going to go play with my puppy, and let me know if I can ever be of service to you. I am here to serve. I love you all so much from the deep depths of my heart. So much gratitude for you being here every Sunday. It fills me up so much. Please make sure that you like and share this video if it was inspiring to you. And I will talk to you all next week.